When you temporarily stop thinking, what will happen to you? Zen and Buddhist teachings. The unstoppable noise in our minds. Imagine lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, hoping for sleep, but your mind won't stop racing. You think about what happened during the day, what might happen tomorrow, the things you forgot to do, regrets from the past, anxieties about the future. Your mind is like a highway with no stoplights, where thoughts keep zooming by, making it impossible to find rest. We live in a world where overthinking is the norm. From the moment we wake up, our thoughts take control. We plan, we worry, we remember, we analyze. But what if we could step back? What if we could detach from this constant mental noise? Buddhism offers a radical yet simple answer. Peace doesn't come from controlling your thoughts. It comes from understanding that you are not your thoughts. This video will take you on a journey to explore what happens when we stop being ruled by our thoughts. Is it possible to slow down the mental chatter? And if so, what does that feel like? Could it change the way we see life? Stay with me as we uncover a powerful truth that might shift the way you experience your own mind forever. Chapter 1. The Problem of Endless Thinking. Our minds are naturally inclined to wander. This is due to our brain's survival instinct, which evolved to be constantly alert to threats. In ancient times, this helped our ancestors stay aware of predators or dangers in their environment. However, in today's modern world, this constant vigilance translates into overthinking, making our minds restless. The concept of the monkey mind in Buddhism goes deeper than just a distracted or wandering mind. It refers to a mind that is never at peace, constantly jumping from thought to thought, like a monkey swinging from tree to tree. This restlessness is at the core of our suffering, as it prevents us from being present and experiencing life fully. We often get stuck in the cycle of constant mental chatter, fueling anxiety and stress. Buddhism offers a solution through mindfulness and meditation. The practice of mindfulness helps us become aware of our thoughts without getting caught up in them. By observing the thoughts as they come and go, without attachment or judgment, we can create a sense of space in our minds. This allows us to break free from the cycle of overthinking and find stillness within. The Buddha also spoke about the concept of non-attachment. Our tendency to cling to thoughts, whether positive or negative, only feeds our suffering. When we hold on to thoughts like, "I should have done better," or "I'm worried about what might happen," we are reinforcing our attachment to outcomes that are beyond our control. Letting go of this attachment is essential to finding peace. By practicing mindfulness and non-attachment, we begin to understand that our thoughts are not who we are. We are the awareness behind them. This realization is the key to reducing unnecessary suffering. When we learn to release the second arrow, the one we shoot at ourselves, we allow ourselves to experience life with a greater sense of ease, clarity, and peace. Through consistent practice, we can tame the monkey mind and create a calm, focused, and compassionate state of mind. This is not an overnight process, but with patience and dedication, the restless mind can be transformed into a peaceful one, allowing us to live more fully in the present moment. Chapter 2. The Science of Overthinking and the Default Mode Network. When the thinking slows down, something remarkable happens. The mind begins to enter a state of presence, free from the constant chatter of the default mode network, DMN. This is where the power of mindfulness and meditation truly shines. By focusing on the breath, the body, or a simple object, we shift our attention away from the incessant thoughts of the past and future. This brings us into a space of awareness, where we experience the present moment more fully and vividly. Neuroscientific research has shown that mindfulness practice can reduce the activation of the DMN. helping to quiet the mind. This is significant because when the DMN is active, it often leads to a state of mind where we replay old memories or imagine worst-case scenarios, both of which can be a source of stress and anxiety. In contrast, mindfulness allows us to disengage from this habitual thinking and bring our focus back to the here and now. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises when we become attached to our thoughts. The DMN is the brain's mechanism for keeping us tied to past regrets and future worries. When we practice mindfulness, we begin to recognize that thoughts are just passing phenomena. We don't need to engage with them or let them control us. This is where the concept of non-attachment becomes key. By observing our thoughts without judgment or reaction, we allow them to dissolve on their own. Furthermore, slowing down the constant mental activity gives us the opportunity to cultivate a sense of peace and clarity. With reduced mental noise, we can see the world as it truly is, without the distortion of overthinking. We can also develop a deeper understanding of our emotions, recognizing that they too are transient and not something to be feared or clung to. This reduction in DMN activity doesn't just benefit our mental health, it also enhances our relationships and overall well-being. With a quieter mind, we are more present in our interactions with others, leading to deeper connections and greater empathy. The benefits of mindfulness and reduced overthinking are far-reaching, from mental clarity to emotional stability, allowing us to live more fully and harmoniously in the present moment. In essence, by quieting the overactive brain and shifting our focus to the present, we can break free from the grip of excessive thinking. This aligns with the Buddhist teaching of mindful awareness, a powerful antidote to the suffering caused by an overactive mind and the default mode network. Chapter 3. The Power of Stillness. When we allow ourselves to experience life through the lens of stillness, something extraordinary happens. We begin to notice the subtle beauty in the world that often goes unnoticed in the rush of our daily lives. The sound of leaves rustling in the wind, the warmth of the sun on our skin, the intricate patterns of a flower. These moments of presence are only possible when our minds are quiet. The Buddha encouraged the practice of mindfulness, which is essentially the cultivation of stillness in the mind. By practicing mindfulness, we allow ourselves to step out of the constant mental noise that typically dominates our thoughts. This stillness opens the door to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. It's in these moments of quiet that we experience a sense of connection to the present moment, free from distractions, judgments, and expectations. Stillness doesn't mean an absence of thought, rather, it's the ability to observe thoughts without becoming entangled in them. In the absence of attachment to our thoughts, we see the world more clearly. The labels we've placed on things, good or bad, right or wrong, begin to dissolve, and we can experience life without the filters of past experiences or future worries. This is the power of stillness. It allows us to experience reality as it truly is, not as we imagine it to be. In Buddhism, the practice of stillness is not about escaping the world, but about engaging with it more fully. When we let go of our mental distractions, we become more open to the richness of life. Every moment becomes an opportunity for discovery and awe. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. We start to appreciate the simple things, like the way light reflects off water or the feeling of ground beneath our feet. Stillness teaches us to be present with what is, without striving for anything else. This shift in perspective can bring profound peace and contentment. When we're no longer chasing after fleeting thoughts or desires, we can rest in the simplicity of the present moment. In this state, there's nothing to prove, nowhere to go, and no need to worry. We simply are. Stillness allows us to see that all the external noise and distractions are just temporary. By cultivating moments of stillness, we can learn to live with greater ease, finding joy and peace in the present moment. free from the constant pull of mental chatter. It's through this stillness that we uncover the deepest truths of our existence. Chapter 4. The False Sense of Self. The concept of self is something many of us hold onto tightly, believing it defines who we are. We base our identity on external factors, our job, achievements, appearance, and the roles we play in society. Yet, Buddhism challenges this understanding, teaching that the self is not fixed but an ever-changing mental construct. Our thoughts about who we are not the reality of who we are. These labels are fleeting, shaped by external circumstances, emotions, and experiences. At its core, the Buddhist teaching of Anattā, no self, invites us to question the belief in a permanent, unchanging self. When we look closely, we see that our identity is not a singular, fixed entity but rather a collection of thoughts, experiences, and perceptions. These mental labels, I am smart, I am successful, I am shy, are just temporary descriptions that we attach to ourselves. When we detach from these labels, we begin to recognize that they are not our true essence. The default mode network, DMN, as neuroscience reveals, plays a crucial role in maintaining our sense of self. It is responsible for self-referential thinking, constantly reinforcing the me in our thoughts. When this network is active, we often feel separated from the world around us, trapped in the belief that we are distinct individuals with fixed identities. However, when the DMN quiets, such as during deep meditation, people report a sense of interconnectedness, where the boundaries of self seem to dissolve. This state is not some mystical experience but a real, measurable shift in our brain's activity. It points to the realization that the sense of a separate, isolated self is an illusion. Buddhism encourages us to practice letting go of this rigid sense of identity. When we stop clinging to our thoughts and labels, we experience a deep sense of freedom, without the need to defend, protect, or assert our self-image. We open ourselves to greater peace and acceptance. True peace arises not from strengthening the ego, but from surrendering it. When we release our attachment to a fixed self, we can experience life more fully, without the constant burden of self-judgment or comparison. In this space of non-attachment, we recognize that we are not our thoughts or labels. We are the awareness behind them, ever present and unchanging. This realization is liberating. It allows us to experience life with greater compassion, openness, and understanding. When the false sense of self fades, what remains is a sense of unity with all things, a connection to the present moment, and a deep inner peace that transcends the ego. Chapter 5. The Balance Between Thought and Stillness. While the goal is not to stop thinking entirely, Buddhism teaches us how to relate to our thoughts in a more mindful and intentional way. Thoughts, when used consciously, can be powerful tools for growth, learning, and problem-solving. The Buddha's middle way guides us toward finding balance, avoiding the extremes of excessive thinking or complete suppression. It's not about erasing thought, but about cultivating a healthy relationship with it, one where we have the ability to discern which thoughts serve us and which ones distract us. In Buddhism, mindfulness is key. When we cultivate mindfulness, we become more aware of the thoughts that arise in our minds. We observe them without judgment, simply noticing their presence. This practice allows us to become less reactive to our thoughts. Instead of automatically identifying with them, we recognize them as passing phenomena. We see that thoughts are like clouds, sometimes dark, sometimes light, but they are temporary and do not define us. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, similarly encourages the examination of thoughts. It teaches us that not all thoughts are true or useful, and we have the power to challenge and change them. The idea is not to suppress negative or intrusive thoughts, but to understand that they do not have to control us. By becoming aware of our thought patterns, we can choose how we respond, just as we can choose what foods to nourish our body with. We can also choose which thoughts we nourish and which we let go of. In this way, thoughts become tools, not masters. The Buddha's advice, think when it is useful, but do not be a slave to your thoughts, highlights the importance of using thought wisely. We are encouraged to cultivate an inner stillness that allows us to pause and consider whether a thought is necessary or helpful. This stillness does not mean inaction, rather, it means we are grounded and clear-minded when we do engage in thought. We approach situations with clarity, without being clouded by unnecessary mental noise. The real challenge lies in understanding how to balance thought and stillness. Too much mental chatter can lead to confusion, stress, and anxiety, while too little thought can result in passivity or lack of direction. When we practice mindfulness and cultivate awareness of our thoughts, we can make conscious choices. We learn to engage with thoughts when necessary, but not to let them control us. This balance allows us to live in harmony with our inner and outer worlds, using thought as a tool for wisdom, compassion, and right action. Chapter 6. What if thinking stops completely? In Buddhism, there is a state of deep meditation known as Nirodha Samapatti-a, which is often described as the cessation of perception and feeling. In this state, all thoughts, sensations, and mental activity cease completely, leaving only an experience of profound stillness and peace. Those who have reached this state often speak of an indescribable sense of serenity. Beyond the limitations of words and concepts, it is a moment of total liberation from the habitual patterns of the mind. However, this does not imply that thinking should be permanently eliminated. The cessation of thought is a temporary state that occurs during deep meditation. But in everyday life, thoughts still arise, even for those who are enlightened. The key difference lies in how thoughts are experienced. Enlightened beings do not cling to their thoughts or become attached to them. They arise and dissolve naturally, without causing any disturbance to the mind. Their thoughts are not driven by desire, fear, or attachment, but rather arise and fade with a sense of freedom and clarity. The goal of meditation and mindfulness practice is not to stop thinking altogether, but to reach a place where thoughts no longer have the power to dominate or control us. Instead of striving for permanent silence, we aim for the freedom from the mental noise that often causes stress, anxiety, and confusion. In this state, we can experience thoughts as transient events that come and go, without being swept away by them. Buddhism teaches that the true path to freedom is not through the suppression or elimination of thoughts, but through the cultivation of awareness and equanimity. By practicing mindfulness, we learn to observe thoughts without becoming entangled in them. We begin to realize that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness that observes them. This realization brings a deep sense of peace and detachment, allowing us to experience life fully without being overwhelmed by the constant chatter of the mind. Ultimately, the practice is about transforming our relationship with thought. We move from being controlled by our thoughts to observing them with clarity and wisdom. In this space, we find freedom, not in the absence of thought, but in our ability to engage with thoughts without becoming identified with them. This is the true essence of mental liberation. Conclusion: the art of thinking less. When we stop identifying with every thought, we free ourselves from the constant mental chatter that often shapes our experience. In this state of awareness, the mind becomes clear, like the sky, and thoughts pass through it like clouds. We don't try to force the clouds away, but we also don't get caught up in them. They come and go, and we remain unshaken. This realization is profound. You are not your thoughts. Thoughts are transient and ever-changing, but you, the awareness behind them, remain constant. The true art of thinking less isn't about eliminating thoughts altogether, but about releasing attachment to them. It's about creating space between the thinker and the thought. In this space, we discover a deeper sense of peace and freedom. Through mindfulness and meditation, we can learn to observe thoughts without becoming entangled in them. The more we practice, the more we see how much of our suffering is self-created by the attachment to thoughts. When we stop believing every thought, we stop reinforcing the false sense of self, and we open ourselves to the vastness of the present moment. This is where true peace lies, not in silence itself, but in the liberation from the noise of the mind.